Dr. Vrlik Korit had seen many horrors in his career. He had patched up soldiers torn apart by void beasts, treated survivors of vacuum exposure, and even once reattached the limbs of a Sarthak after an unfortunate encounter with an antimatter mine. None of it compared to the nightmare sitting before him now. Humanity. Dr. Vrlik's 8 digits trembled slightly as he reviewed the medical report on his holotablet. His twin hearts beat irregularly, a physiological reaction to extreme distress. His mandibles twitched involuntarily, clicking in a nervous pattern. He had spent years studying high-risk organisms, but this wasn't science. This was madness. The human patient sitting across from him, a male named Ethan Cole, watched him with what could only be described as amused curiosity. His posture was relaxed, arms folded behind his head, feet propped up on the examination table as if he were lounging in a recreational facility and not a highly classified medical lab. "You're staring, Doc," Ethan said, smirking. "Not the first time an alien's been amazed by our superior biology." Dr. Vrlik opened his mandibles to speak, but only a strangled clicking sound emerged. Ethan grinned wider. "Speechless, huh?" The doctor finally found his voice, though it came out in a strained rasp. "You should not be alive." Ethan's eyebrows shot up. "Oh, that bad, huh?" Dr. Vrlik slammed the holotablet down. "Bad is not the word, human. According to every known medical principle in the galaxy, you physically defy survival probability." Ethan sat up slightly intrigued. "Go on." Dr. Vrlik inhaled deeply, trying to steady himself. "First, your immune system. It is not merely adaptive. It is aggressive. Your body reacts to foreign bacteria and viruses as if waging a planetary war. The sheer volume of antibodies, the redundancies in your immune response, it is absurd." "Well, yeah," Ethan said. "Can't have a little sniffle taking us out, right?" Dr. Vrlik ignored him. "Your bone structure. Denser than most known sentient species, capable of absorbing impact forces that would shatter a THON's exoskeleton. Yet you heal from fractures at a rate that should be biologically impossible." Ethan nodded. "Broke my arm when I was 12. Was fine in like 6 weeks. Dr. Vrlik's vision blurred. He forced himself to continue. "Your cardiovascular system. Your hearts are weak compared to most species of your size class, yet your muscles somehow compensate through sheer inefficiency. Your kind should be constantly fatigued, yet you display excessive endurance." Ethan's smirk widened. "Yeah, we call that going for a jog." The alien doctor resisted the urge to scream. Instead, he pressed a shaking finger against the most troubling part of the report. "Your pain tolerance is the most damning evidence of all." Ethan blinked. "What about it?" Dr. Vrlik's mandibles flared. "Human, you should not be able to function with the amount of injuries you have sustained throughout your life. According to this medical scan, you have suffered from multiple concussions, torn ligaments, a punctured lung, and significant nerve damage. And yet you sit before me unharmed." Ethan shrugged. "Yeah, well, we get banged up a lot. Comes with the territory." Dr. Vrlik's hands slammed down onto the table. Asterisk, "You were clinically dead for 2 minutes, asterisk." Ethan hesitated. "All that? Yeah, I drowned once. It sucked." Dr. Vrlik's mandibles clicked violently. Asterisk, "You drowned?" Asterisk. "Well, yeah," Ethan said. "But they brought me back, so no big deal." Dr. Vrlik collapsed into his chair, his will to live rapidly draining. His species, the Vortari, had long been considered one of the hardiest species in the galactic concordance. They could survive extreme dehydration, withstand harsh gravitational shifts, and regenerate minor wounds in mere hours. They had believed themselves to be among the most durable sentient life forms in existence. But this was something else entirely. Dr. Vrlik stared at the report, his claws dragging down his face. "Do you understand what this means?" he said hoarsely. Ethan frowned. "That I need to drink more water?" "No." The doctor gestured wildly. "This means humans are officially a Deathworld species. You evolved on a world so hostile, so violently unfit for most sentient life, that your very biology has weaponized survival itself." Ethan blinked, then let out a low whistle. "Huh. Neat." Dr. Vrlik buried his face in his hands. This was not neat. This was terrifying. ####. Hours later, Dr. Vrlik sat in his private office, still reeling. The ramifications of his discovery were monumental. The Galactic Concordance had strict classifications for sentient life. A Deathworld classification was rare, given only to species that had evolved under extreme environmental hostility. It was a designation reserved for organisms that could endure uninhabitable worlds. Worlds where everything sought to kill them. If humans were officially declared a Deathworld species, it would change everything. Trade agreements would be re-evaluated. Military alliances would be reconsidered. The very status of humanity in the galactic political landscape could shift overnight. And Dr. Vrlik would be responsible for it. He trembled at the thought. A chime sounded at his door. "Enter," he croaked. The door slid open and Ethan Cole strolled in, looking far too casual for someone whose species had just been declared a biological nightmare. "Yo, document. You okay?" Dr. Vrlik groaned. No, human, I am not okay." Ethan plopped down in the chair across from him. "Look, I get it. This is probably some big deal to you nerds in the medical field, but trust me, humans have always known we were tough." Dr. Vrlik lifted his weary gaze. "Then why did you not warn us?" Ethan grinned. "Because it's fun watching people freak out about it." Dr. Vrlik nearly died on the spot. Ethan leaned forward. "So what happens now?" Dr. Vrlik exhaled sharply. "Now, I must present my findings to the Concordance Council." Ethan nodded. "Cool. Mind if I tag along?" Dr. Vrlik froze. Why would you want to be there?" Ethan's smirk widened. "Because I have to see their faces when they realize what we are." Dr. Vrlik stared at the human. He had survived countless medical crises. He had held the hands of dying warriors and mended wounds no other doctor could. But this was too much. He buried his face in his hands once more. He was not paid enough for this. Dr. Vrlik Koret had given many presentations in his life. He had lectured on xenobiology at the prestigious Zorthan Academy of Medical Sciences. He had been invited to speak before the Concordance Science Assembly on the regenerative properties of Vortari tissue. None of that had prepared him for this. Standing in the center of the Galactic Concordance Council chamber, he felt like a prey animal trapped in the jaws of an apex predator. Which, incidentally, was an appropriate metaphor considering the human standing next to him. Ethan Cole, the most problematic patient Dr. Vrlik had ever encountered, stood beside him with an infuriatingly relaxed grin. Hands in his pockets, shoulders loose, eyes filled with mischievous amusement. As if he wasn't about to witness the political upheaval of the entire galactic order. Dr. Vrlik wanted to die. "Dr. Vrlik," came the voice of High Chancellor Orvok, a towering, multi-eyed representative of the Kothari Dominion. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber lights, his mandibles clicking in what Dr. Vrlik assumed was restrained impatience. "You have requested an emergency audience with this council. Your report indicates new data regarding humanity's biological classification. Explain yourself." Dr. Vrlik swallowed hard. He activated the holo display, and a detailed medical readout of human physiology flickered to life in the center of the chamber. The assembled council members, representatives of 56 different sentient species, leaned in, intrigued. Dr. Vrlik took a breath. "Honorable members of the Concordance Council," he began. "It is my professional, scientific, and deeply terrified conclusion that humanity qualifies as a Deathworld species." A long silence followed. Then Ambassador Island of the Viraki clans, a delicate avian-like species, let out a horrified squawk. "Impossible?" Island fluffed her feathers in visible distress. "Humans are everywhere. They have been members of the Concordance for decades. Surely we would have noticed before now?" Ethan coughed into his fist. "Well, to be fair, you guys never asked." Dr. Vrlik gave him a look. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices. Some delegates shouted in protest. Others whispered in anxious tones. The representatives of the Zorthexi Republic, a species known for their delicate physiology, visibly recoiled as if humanity's mere presence might be contagious. High Chancellor Orvok raised one of his many hands for silence. "You will explain," he said firmly. Dr. Vrlik exhaled, tapping the holo tablet. The display shifted, showing case studies from his medical examination of Ethan Cole. This human, this specimen alone, has survived a series of injuries that should be fatal to any species of comparable size. Dr. Vrlik's mandibles twitched. He has suffered multiple concussions and retained cognitive function. He has broken bones, torn ligaments, punctured organs, and recovered with alarming speed. Several council members winced. Dr. Vrlik continued. Their immune system is hostile, their bodies react to infections as though waging full-scale biochemical war. Their muscle fibers allow for sustained exertion beyond the limits of most sentient life. Their pain tolerance is, he turned to Ethan, still struggling to comprehend it, frankly insane. Ethan grinned. "Ah, document. You're making me blush." Dr. Vrlik resisted the urge to throw his tablet at him. The display shifted again, showing comparative charts. We classify death worlds based on extreme environmental conditions: high gravity, volatile ecosystems, lethal fauna. It is exceedingly rare for sentient species to survive such conditions, much less thrive. He gestured to the screen, which now displayed Earth. The chamber fell silent. This, Dr. Vrlik said, is a world where the dominant species evolved despite regular megafauna predation, extreme climate shifts, natural disasters, and pathogens that require an absurd level of immune response. This is a world where water itself can kill you if consumed improperly, where the primary sentient species willingly participates in self-imposed physical exertion for pleasure. He turned to the council, his voice rising. This is a death world? Muffled gasps. Stunned silence. And then, a thud. Dr. Vrlik turned sharply. One of the council members, an Alaran diplomat, had fainted. Dr. Vrlik sighed. Understandable. ####. The chaos lasted for over an hour. Council members bickered. Some called for immediate reclassification of humanity's status. Others debated whether humans should be considered a threat. Ethan? Ethan looked delighted. This is the best day of my life, he muttered under his breath. Dr. Vrlik resisted the urge to strangle him. Finally, High Chancellor Orvok silenced the chamber once more. The evidence is undeniable, Orvok said gravely. Humanity meets the criteria of a death world species. This council must now deliberate on the implications. More murmurs. Dr. Vrlik felt his secondary heart skip a beat. Implications? Orvok nodded. For decades, humanity has been treated as a standard concordant species. But this new designation changes everything. Certain treaties may need revision. Military alliances will be questioned. And most importantly, his many eyes fixed on Ethan. We must determine whether humanity is a danger to the wider galactic community. Ethan frowned. Hey now. We're not dangerous unless someone makes us be. Dr. Vrlik went rigid. The tension in the chamber thickened. Some of the less durable species visibly recoiled. Ethan sighed. Look, I get it. We're a little tough. Maybe we get into some trouble now and then. But you've had us in your space for decades and we haven't conquered anything yet, have we? The room was eerily quiet. Yet? Island repeated nervously. Ethan groaned. Okay, bad choice of words. Dr. Vrlik wanted to vanish into the void. High Chancellor Orvok leaned forward. We will reconvene in one standard cycle to reach a decision. Dr. Vrlik exhaled, relieved. Until then, Orvok continued, humanity will be subject to temporary high-risk classification protocols. Ethan tilted his head. Meaning? Orvok's mandibles clicked. Meaning that humans will be under strict observation, certain travel privileges will be restricted. Military forces will be placed on heightened awareness. Ethan blinked. Wait, are you putting us on probation? It is a precaution, Orvok said evenly. The concordance must ensure that a death world species does not pose an existential risk. Ethan stared, then laughed. Oh buddy, he said, shaking his head. You have no idea what you've just done. Dr. Vrlik stiffened. Human, please do not make this worse. Ethan smirked. Oh, it's already worse, document. He turned to the council, eyes gleaming with amusement. You just told 10 billion humans that the rest of the galaxy thinks we might be too dangerous. He leaned back, grinning like a death world predator. They're gonna take that as a challenge. Dr. Vrlik's mandibles twitched. He was going to have a stroke. Dr. Vrlik Koret was experiencing the worst stress-related molt of his career. He sat in his personal quarters aboard the Concordance Central Station, watching a galactic news broadcast with all the enthusiasm of a creature awaiting execution. The headline? Humans declared a death world species, galactic response pending. The subheader? Breaking. Human military, scientific, and exploration divisions react to reclassification. And the footage? The footage was a nightmare. Dr. Vrlik watched in growing horror as various human governments, organizations, and individuals reacted to the news of their new designation. And they were not reacting with fear. They were reacting with glee. The first report showed footage of Terran military units, not withdrawing, not panicking, but doubling their training regimens. Soldiers were seen laughing about the reclassification, making offhand comments about how they finally got recognized for what they were. The United Terran Marines even released an official recruitment poster featuring a snarling human in full combat gear, with the bold tagline, "Join the Deathworld Legion. Be something aliens fear." Dr. Vrlik choked on his own breath. The second report showed footage from a civilian-level human scientists, engineers, and spacefarers had taken the news as a personal challenge. In a clip from a Mars-based research facility, a human biologist was seen enthusiastically explaining human durability to a room full of alien colleagues. We can survive in zero-G for extended periods, tolerate extreme temperatures, and recover from injuries that would kill most species. Oh, and fun fact, if we get stranded in space, we can hold our breath longer than almost any other sentient race before passing out. And if we do pass out, we sometimes just wake up and keep going. Dr. Vrillik groaned. The third report was worse. It showed human media outlets running entire segments on the Deathworld designation, featuring talk show hosts, comedians, and celebrities celebrating the news as though it were an achievement. A viral clip from a human entertainment program featured a well-known comedian saying, "So let me get this straight. They just now realized we're terrifying? Buddy, we've been Florida managing our way through the universe for decades." The audience roared with laughter. Dr. Vrillik wished for death. But the final report was the worst of all. It showed an official response from the United Terran Diplomatic Corps. Ambassador James Holloway stood at a podium, his expression caught between amusement and mild offense. To the members of the Galactic Concordance Council, he began, voice cool and even. First of all, thank you for officially recognizing what we've known all along. Second of all, why the hell are you so scared of us now? We've been peacefully coexisting for decades. We've contributed to trade, exploration, and defense initiatives. We've fought alongside you in wars, helped rebuild planets, and even provided medical aid during galactic crises. Ambassador Holloway leaned forward slightly. But now that we have a cool new label, suddenly we're under observation? Suddenly we need restricted movement? The room fell silent. You think this will keep things calm? He smiled. I hate to break it to you, but humans don't take well to being underestimated. The broadcast cut back to the anchor, who looked visibly unnerved. Dr. Vrillik turned off the screen, then screamed into his claws. ####. The situation was rapidly deteriorating. Within hours of the public announcement, human ships across the galaxy were reportedly conducting stress tests. Testing gravity tolerances, oxygen deprivation resistance, thermal extremes ***, because of course they were. The Concordance Military Advisory Board had already issued 2 security alerts, citing concerns that human forces were conducting unauthorized survival experiments in hazardous zones. What? Because humans wanted to prove they were even tougher than the Council had suggested. Dr. Vrillik was going to combust. ####. A chime at his door. He already knew who it was. "Enter," he croaked. The door slid open and Ethan Cole strolled in like a man who had just won a lottery. "Yo, Doc," Ethan said, hands in his pockets. "You see the news?" Dr. Vrillik glared. Of course I saw the news." Ethan grinned. "Pretty cool, right?" Dr. Vrillik lost the will to live. "Cool?" he repeated in disbelief. "Human, the Concordance is on edge. The Council is debating whether you are a threat." Ethan scoffed. "Oh, please. They should have figured this out a long time ago." He grabbed a chair, spun it around, and sat down backwards like a delinquent. "Look, Doc, let me break this down for you." He leaned forward, elbows on the chair back. "You ever seen what happens when you tell a human they can't do something?" Dr. Vrillik hesitated. "Yes." "Right. And what do we do?" "You do it anyway." Ethan pointed at him. "Exactly." Dr. Vrillik groaned. "So now," Ethan continued, "you just told 10 billion humans that the rest of the galaxy thinks we might be too dangerous to handle, and instead of being scared, we're all thinking, cool, let's see how far we can push it, ***. Dr. Vrillik buried his face in his hands. Ethan slapped a hand on his shoulder. "Relax, document. This'll all blow over soon." Dr. Vrillik shook his head. "No," he muttered. "It will not." Because he knew one terrible, undeniable truth. The moment humans had been labeled a Deathworld species, they had decided to lean into it. And the galaxy wasn't ready. Dr. Vrillik Koret had been awake for 62 standard hours. His secondary heart was beating too fast. His primary heart felt like it might give out entirely. His stress-induced molt had worsened to the point where he had to wear an anti-shedding cloak to avoid losing scales in public. Because of course his worst fears had come true. The Concordance Council's decision was due within hours, and the galaxy had descended into chaos. The military divisions of several species were in full-blown panic mode. The Concordance Navy had tripled its patrols in human-dominated sectors, but that wasn't stopping the problem. And the problem was this. Humans had turned the reclassification into a badge of honor. Dr. Vrilic stared blankly at the latest broadcast footage, his claws twitching. The hollow display flickered, revealing a nightmare montage of human behavior over the past few days. First clip asterisk, a group of human scientists on a barren high-radiation moon. Asterisk, outside of protective shielding asterisk. Asterisk asterisk, laughing asterisk asterisk, as they tested their survival suits in ways that should not be tested. Asterisk, turns out, with just the right oxygen mixture we can survive out here longer than we thought. Asterisk, one researcher beamed. Dr. Vrilic twitched. Second clip asterisk, a human diplomatic envoy engaged in a goodwill visit to a species known for their fragile physiology. The human ambassador? Casually demonstrating a party trick where he stabbed a sterilized needle into his own arm and said, asterisk, see? Only hurts a little. Humans can just take damage sometimes. No big deal. Asterisk. Dr. Vrilic nearly collapsed. Third clip asterisk, the worst one. A group of young human explorers had apparently made contact with a planet classified as uninhabitable due to its extreme gravity. What had they done? They had gone there on purpose. Asterisk, hey everyone. Asterisk, the lead explorer grinned in a live-streamed broadcast. Asterisk, we're testing human muscle adaptability in a high-G environment. Turns out, we can move just fine after a little practice. Sucks at first though. Almost passed out getting out of the ship. Anyway, watch this. Asterisk. Then he proceeded to do push-ups. Dr. Vrilic felt his soul leave his body. Hashtag hashtag hashtag. The meeting chamber was filled with tense silence. Every major species representative was present, their expressions ranging from concern to downright terrified. At the head of the table, High Chancellor Orvok clicked his mandibles. We must reach a decision. The assembled council members whispered amongst themselves. Dr. Vrilic took a deep breath. I propose we remove the travel restrictions, he said suddenly. Silence. Every representative turned to stare at him. Orvok narrowed his many eyes. You what? Dr. Vrilic slumped forward. I have spent the last several days monitoring human activity, he said, voice heavy with exhaustion. And I have reached the following conclusion. He gestured to the horrifying footage looping on the holodisplay. This is a species that took a terrifying classification and made it a game. They do not see their reclassification as a threat, they see it as a challenge. A long silence. Dr. Vrilic continued. If we keep restricting them, they will only become more determined to prove how strong they are. If we try to contain them, they will push back twice as hard. If we label them dangerous, they will start to enjoy it. He exhaled sharply. We must not challenge humanity's limits. Because I promise you they will break those limits just to see if they can. The chamber was deathly quiet. Then Ambassador Island, the avian diplomat, gave a horrified whisper. So, you're saying our best option is to do nothing? Dr. Vrilic nodded grimly. Yes. The council members exchanged nervous glances. High Chancellor Orvok tapped his claws on the table. Then the motion is passed, the travel restrictions are lifted. Humanity will remain an official Deathworld species, but we will not intervene. Ethan Cole, seated off to the side, gave a victorious grin. Smart move? Dr. Vrilic didn't even have the energy to glare at him. Hashtag hashtag hashtag. The official statement from the council was released by the end of the cycle. Humans maintain full rights as Concordance members. No further restrictions, asterisk asterisk. The galaxy collectively exhaled. And humanity? Humanity celebrated. Within a day, human news outlets ran new headlines. Humanity, the galaxy's favorite problem child. Official Deathworld status confirmed. Humans immediately go back to being chaotic. Terran military says, we told you so. Dr. Vrilic sat in his office, staring blankly at the screen, sipping the strongest anti-stress tea known to his species. Ethan, lounging nearby, smirked. Told you it'd work out, document? Dr. Vrilic groaned. No. It did not work out. It resolved itself temporarily. Ethan shrugged. Same thing. Dr. Vrilic massaged his temples. The galaxy had just barely survived its first encounter with the true extent of human stubbornness. And deep in his weary soul he knew. This would not be the last time. The end.